Imagine boarding a routine flight the day before Thanksgiving. A quiet man in a business suit takes his seat. He orders a bourbon and soda. No one notices anything unusual, until he calmly hands a flight attendant a note. At first, she assumes it's another passenger trying to flirt. But when she finally reads it, her heart stops. "I have a bomb." Within hours, this mysterious stranger would walk away with $200,000 in cash, leap from a commercial airplane into a violent storm, and disappear forever. More than 50 years later, nobody knows who he really was. This is the unbelievable story of D.B. Cooper, the man who committed one of the boldest crimes in American history and seemingly got away with it. It was November 24, 1971, Thanksgiving Eve. Air travel was very different from today. There were no TSA checkpoints, no body scanners. Passengers could board a plane with little more than a purchased ticket. At Portland International Airport, a middle-aged man approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He identified himself as Dan Cooper. The ticket cost just $20. His destination was Seattle. The flight was expected to last only about 30 minutes. Witnesses later described him as being in his mid-40s, around 6 feet tall, wearing a dark business suit, a white shirt, black tie, polished loafers, and carrying only a black briefcase. Nothing about him seemed suspicious. He blended in perfectly, which may have been exactly what he wanted. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper lit a cigarette. Smoking was allowed on airplanes back then. He ordered a drink, then quietly handed a folded piece of paper to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was another phone number from a lonely passenger, she slipped it into her purse without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her. "You'd better read that." The note contained only a few chilling words. "I have a bomb." When she looked at him in shock, Cooper calmly opened his briefcase just enough for her to glimpse what appeared to be 8 red cylinders connected by wires. Whether it was real or fake has never been confirmed, but nobody on board was willing to find out. Cooper's instructions were surprisingly reasonable. He demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. If his demands were met, nobody would be harmed. The pilots secretly contacted air traffic control. The FBI quickly became involved. Authorities faced an impossible choice: try to stop him, or cooperate and save dozens of innocent lives. They chose cooperation. Meanwhile, Cooper remained astonishingly calm. He chatted politely with the crew, paid for his bourbon, even offered to pay for the meals of the flight attendants. He didn't act like a desperate criminal. He acted like a businessman finishing an important negotiation. As the aircraft circled Seattle waiting for authorities to gather the ransom money, passengers had no idea they were part of history. Eventually the plane landed. The ransom arrived, along with 4 parachutes. The passengers were safely released. Only the flight crew remained on board. Then Cooper issued new instructions. He wanted to fly toward Mexico City, but under very specific conditions. The aircraft had to stay below 10,000 feet, travel at about 170 knots, keep the landing gear partially deployed, and leave the rear staircase unlocked. His detailed knowledge surprised investigators. Many believed he had aviation or military experience. Into the storm, around 8 p.m. the aircraft lifted off again. Outside, heavy rain, powerful winds, freezing temperatures, almost complete darkness, somewhere over the forests of Washington state. Cooper made his move. He tied the ransom money to himself, put on one of the parachutes, lowered the rear staircase while the plane was still flying, and vanished into the night. The pilots felt a sudden upward movement. Then, nothing. When the plane landed safely in Reno, Nevada, Cooper was gone. Only a few items remained: a black clip-on tie, several cigarette butts, and endless questions. The largest investigation. The FBI launched one of the biggest manhunts in its history. The case was given the code name Noryak, short for Northwest Hijacking. Hundreds of soldiers searched mountains, forests, and rivers. Helicopters scanned the landscape. Thousands of interviews were conducted. The serial numbers of every ransom bill were recorded and distributed nationwide. Authorities believed someone would eventually spend the money. But the years passed, nothing. No parachute, no body, no cash, no Cooper. Then, in 1980, Nearly 9 years later, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the Columbia River. He uncovered 3 bundles of decaying $20 bills. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom money. Almost $6,000 had somehow reached the riverbank, but nobody could explain how. Did Cooper drown? Did the river carry the money there, or did someone deliberately bury it? Even today, experts still disagree. The suspects. Over the decades, the FBI investigated more than 1,000 suspects. Some were experienced skydivers. Others were former military personnel. Several deathbed confessions emerged. Friends claimed relatives admitted to being Cooper. Authors wrote books naming their own suspects. Television documentaries proposed elaborate theories. Yet every promising lead eventually collapsed. DNA evidence from Cooper's tie has produced intriguing possibilities, but no definitive match. His true identity remains unknown. Could he have survived? This question divides investigators to this day. Some believe survival was impossible. He jumped into freezing rain, at night, over rugged wilderness, wearing business shoes, without knowing exactly where he would land. Others argue the opposite. His calm behavior, knowledge of aircraft, specific parachute requests, and precise flight instructions suggest careful planning. Perhaps he landed safely, buried the money, created a new identity, and lived out the rest of his life in complete anonymity. If so, he executed one of history's greatest disappearances. Why the mystery endures? Unlike most criminals, Cooper never sought fame. He never contacted newspapers, never bragged, never claimed responsibility again. He simply vanished. That silence transformed him into a legend. Books, movies, television shows, podcasts, even copycat hijackers attempted to imitate him. None succeeded. Cooper became something larger than a criminal. He became one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. The FBI closes the case. After spending decades chasing thousands of leads, the FBI officially suspended active investigation in 2016. Resources would instead focus on more urgent crimes. But the case itself remains open. If compelling evidence appears, investigators could still reopen it. Until then, the tie, the recovered ransom money, and the eyewitness descriptions remain the only physical reminders of a man who seemed to disappear into thin air. More than half a century has passed since that rainy November night. Technology has advanced beyond anything investigators in 1971 could have imagined. Yet one question still refuses to be answered. Who was D.B. Cooper? Was he a trained professional who escaped perfectly, or an overconfident hijacker who died moments after jumping into darkness? Perhaps the truth still lies hidden somewhere beneath the forests of the Pacific Northwest, waiting to be discovered. Until that day comes, the legend of D.B. Cooper will remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history.